Witam wszystkich serdecznie w dzisiejszym wydaniu podcastu The Concept Poland. Moim dzisiejszym gościem jest Daniel Tudor, który jest naszym międzynarodowym gościem, więc pozwolę sobie poprowadzić część tego podcastu w języku, którym możemy porozumiewać się wspólnie i będzie to język angielski. So today, Daniel, welcome in the Concept podcast. Thank you for joining it.
Thanks a lot, Monika. I love the Polish accent and your language. It's very vibrant and it's very poetical. I find it very musical in a way.
Well, I find Romanian also very interesting. You know, it has a bit of Italian, a bit of Latin, a bit of Slovak, I would say, whatever.
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
So it seems that I understand it, but it's actually quite interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Well, we are here today to talk about Europe, CEE and its transformation. And your role in it, in a sense. So for a long time, people thought that the heart and the center of economic of Europe is Western Europe. In the end, we have seen that over 2 decades, we have remarkable changes in the Central and Eastern Europe. Has totally transformed.
Yeah.
Economies has grown. It has started to attract institutional, international investors. And Poland is today a very good example of this transformation. We have dynamic economy, we have ambitious cities, and the real estate market continues a significant capital growth. And we know that such a growth brings opportunities, but also the challenges. So then it's very important for developers and for the partners to actually not only build projects, but also build brands, communities, and long-term value. At this very moment, for such partners, it's very important to find this right partner that supports you on the market. How do you see that from your perspective? You are a founder and a CEO of the Concept Group, the most important residential sales and advisory for developers in Romania.
Thank you for asking me this question, and actually, I'm so glad that I'm one of your first guests in your podcast, and the fact that we are doing this together, and the fact that we started this partnership, really makes my heart vibrate, because I love Poland, and in a way, Polish people are like us. We are, in a way, very similar. Mm-hmm. We got through history together in many ways, and we encountered many challenges that we somehow made it, and we surpassed them. So now being together in bringing the concept to Poland, it's both a remarkable partnership and also a way to express what we have learned in all these 15 years of work, and bring as much value as possible to the Polish developers and institutional players that are in Warsaw, in all the other major cities in Poland. So, yeah, I'm really glad. Maybe this can be seen on the camera, and looking forward to see how this will go through.
I'm looking forward for that too. Very happy to hear it. Daniel, for the ones that may not be familiar with the concept, can you say in few words, actually, how would you describe it?
For let's say, the technical people that is in your audience and know many things about the real estate market, I can say a few numbers. Yeah, we have spent the last 15 years working closely with developers, both Romanian and internationally, in Bucharest and all the major cities in Romania, helping them not only to sell their projects, mostly residential, but also to position themselves, position them correctly in the market and build a long-term enduring partnership. So far, we've been working on more than 130 residential developments with over 6,000 properties sold and more than probably 700-800 million in transactions. And we are very happy to bring this to Poland, to bring our systems, our processes, our platforms, our way of dealing from the leadership and management perspective with both the retail clients, residential clients, and developers. And I'm sure that we're gonna also learn a lot on the way, and do this together is even more fascinating for us.
So, how would you position the company on the market?
In terms of service provider, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Most of the time, we are perceived like an advisory company, mostly for residential developments. But in the last few years, we've developed also our capital markets branch. So now we are dealing both with commercial, basically commercial services for residential developments, but also with everything that involves land acquisitions, retail park, and any kind of retail asset development, hotels development, acquisition and selling, and advisory throughout the entire development process for all the major developers that we've been working to and have long-term partnerships already ongoing in Romania. So yeah, probably we are the company to go to when thinking about real estate developments that need to be transacted, commercialized in the market.
I think it took quite some time to develop it, this position, and actually some evolution of a company. What was that?
Why took us so long, or what?
No, it seems that it has been an evolution. And do you find any important factors during this path?
Yeah, I think probably what made us get here was the fact that all this time we are very keen on executing and improving the processes that we've implemented in the company, through which we served so many developers over the years, meaning sales processes, marketing processes, all this relationship that takes place since the inception, which means when you buy the land, to the end when you sell the last unit, and maybe even 6 or 12 months after. This is a long process. Usually it takes 3 to 5 years.
Definitely.
And in order to put this in a process, it's really an adventure. And this is what probably differentiated us through the years, the fact that we understood the importance of processes and keeping the people aligned in a disciplined way on this thing. As an example, for a developer, working with us brings them a lot of peace of mind, because they know that the sales part, which is basically, if not the most important, one of the most important parts in the business, is managed in a very structured and professional way by professionals, focused only on their product. So each time we go into a partnership with a new developer, and this is very important for the developers that are watching this video, the team that we put in place, involving management and executives, sales executives, and everybody aside, meaning marketing and all the support departments, work only for the project. So basically, they concentrate their efforts to get the project to its completion in terms of sales. And this brings a lot of value to the table, because otherwise, if they chose a simple brokerage company, they would lose a lot in terms of quality and in terms of in terms of efficiency. Probably prices will need to be decreased, because each time an agent comes with a client to you and goes to some other projects, usually the cheapest project wins. But if you have a team that is put in your basically integrated in your business environment and works solely for your project, creates basically the pipeline effect, in which you start using big numbers. You enter, let's say, in discussions with 2,000 clients, you have 200 meetings with them, and you sell 50 units. That's much more efficient than waiting for clients to come to you, and if they want to buy through agency or direct, they buy. Otherwise, leave us alone.
So I hear somewhere in between that the people, the team, and the relation with your clients, with developers, is very important.
Yeah.
Can you say something about your results, the results and benefits you delivered to developers in specific? Just name it.
Yeah, we studied the effect of using dedicated commercial team from the concept in many of our projects, and we got to the point in which we saw a difference that it's even up to 15% increase in the price of transactions if they work in this system instead of working with a normal team or maybe with external brokerage agencies, without putting structure, management, leadership, systems, reporting in place as the concept does. And that's huge. I mean, it's pure profit in the end, if you think it this way. 15% more than average market prices. It's 15 percentage points more in profit. That's huge.
When it comes to velocity of the sales process, how do you look at it?
Normally, we don't try to push sales to be done fast, because that's detrimental for the client, for the developer. The clients are developers for us, not the final clients. Of course, we need to keep the end buyers or institutional investors happy, because without them, we don't have a business. But our service, the concept service, is basically done on purpose for the developer, for the project that we study and execute. Sorry, what was the question again? The velocity?
Yes, the speed, I would say, of the sales.
The speed, yeah.
That the concept is actually delivering.
So we usually recommend to sell the entire project throughout the development period, and maximum 6 months after, because timing the sales this way doesn't push for lower prices, and gets also the benefit of absorbing the inflation in the price of the units, and also absorbing the risk of increasing costs that you may not know at the beginning of the development. You know, it's always this problem with every development that starts. You make the budget, you know the costs that will take you, let's say, to 20 million euro. Let's say for a small
developer has a contingency, I would say.
Even with that contingency, it can always blow in your face if you sell very fast at the first predictions, and not have remaining units that can still absorb a potential increase in construction costs.
And have this upside, yeah.
Exactly. And they lose also the upside. So we try to time as much as possible. But anyhow, this is usually tailored with the developer in recurrent discussions when we discuss the strategy, the concept of the project, and basically preparing the launch. So when we start, we have already measured 10 times, like the tailor, and just cut once. We don't start and see what happens. We usually measure, position, reposition, think of different scenarios, and in the end, it's very beneficial for the project and for the developer, for our client.
We already touched a bit on the, I would say, unique points and characteristics of the concept, and what differentiates you from on the market. So let's look at it from the business model perspective. How would you describe it?
You mean what are the services that we provide?
Well, I think that it has to do something in common with the marketing service.
Yeah,
That is,
okay.
you can offer the structured sales process and teams, project positioning, or the consultancy before the project launch, which I know I heard of, but maybe you would like to say a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a very long process, first of all. So we are talking about relationships with developers that usually last for 3 years or more. From the moment we think of a project to the moment we sell the last remaining piece of the project or last remaining unit. This involves a lot of meetings. Involves a lot of measuring, reports and trends, KPIs, stuff, data, a lot of data, and means a lot of rearranging on the way. We in this period that we are passing now, the calculation that you make at the beginning usually don't fit the calculation at the end, because you see it's challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge. You don't have to call them crisis. What we do better than most of the companies that probably are in the sector is the fact that we put a lot of emphasis in the preparation of the launching of the project, meaning mix of the units, surfaces, position of the project in the market, target audience, and how can we get more from this specific target audience, how we finance the acquisition from the client's perspective, from the end buyers and investors' perspective, what is the perfect moment to launch, structuring the sales team in order to be aligned on the strategy, preparation of marketing. And we have many providers around Romania and around Europe. We work with external providers from different countries around Europe as well. And when we start selling and start basically the campaigns, we usually have everything put in place, and we benefit of this big numbers effect. We can scale the operations in a very efficient way for our main client, which is the developer. Afterwards, it's work in progress. It's like a machine. We actually call it the machine, it's continuous improvement through weekly meetings, through daily reports, checking of the trends, going back to the strategy if it's something that we need to adjust. And we try to do this in a positive environment, as positive as possible, involving developer, the sales team, the marketing team, the management team, in order to create, a sort of mastermind effect. When you have more brains at the same table, working for the same purpose, you might find the solutions to get you through.
I perfectly understand. So it really sounds like a lot of industry expertise that you have within the company with your team. And there are some things that you have observed probably over the years, providing your services to the clients. What do you think? What are the common mistakes of developers that still take place, unfortunately?
Yeah, it happened too many times already, and still happen. First of all, I would say that many of them are still launching projects without a clear strategy. And this hurts the entire process because there's that saying from Alice in Wonderland: if you don't know where you're going, any route will take you there. So I would say that this is probably the first big mistake. Then is the incorrect pricing. Many developers think of the projects that they develop as their babies, and you, as a father or as a mother, you always think that your baby is the most beautiful in the world, and you price it above the market all the time. Of course, you don't price a baby, you price a product in this case. But believing that you are the best in the market without really differentiating the proper way, it's a big mistake. And this hurts sales a lot. Then is lack of marketing strategy. Many think that when starting a project, apartments or any other assets will sell by themselves, which usually doesn't happen. Yeah, we have passed those times in the past in which could have happened, but even back then, it wasn't that often. And of course, disorganized sales processes. Basically, they just think of sales as talking to a person that comes to you to buy an apartment, and that's it, which is not the case. The beauty lies in the process. We even have this saying in the concept that you already know, and we value it together, that success in sales is not an event, is a process. Stick to it, meaning stick to the process, of course, not to the event. Okay. So basically, sales are not something that happens from clear sky. It comes as a result of following a specific process. And the people need to know this thing from the very beginning, because they need to call more clients, call them more often. So basically do more follow-up, close more, use closing techniques much more often. By this meaning calling clients for meetings, trying to push for the sale in a elegant way, but efficient in the same way, more often, and sticking to this process on the long run. I remember that we were studying at some point in the past how many interactions were between the salesperson and the clients on average. And we were close to 50. That's a lot of work, because if you multiply it with 20,000-30,000 clients per annum, you just count it and you see how many interactions you need. By interaction meaning call and meeting, no emails. That's separate. Okay? And this is a process that needs to last in time and be done in a disciplined way. Otherwise, it affects the project, is detrimental to the project. This is what we are doing together. And this is what the concept does, and we've been doing this for 15 years already.
Well, I'm happy we are here together, because this is a unique podcast. So for everyone to understand and know why are we here and why are we here together today, it's actually a big thing and a big step for the concept. It's again a process. It's not just today, but today we have an occasion to actually announce it to some audience. The fact that the concept is expanding. Can you say a few words about it?
Yeah, I'm very happy about this thing. It was my dream since I first started the company. So I was really envisioning how can we raise the standard of the service or the services done in real estate on a European level. And this is basically our first major step towards this, and we are so happy that we are doing this together, because from the very beginning I felt that there's a good connection in terms of between us, in terms of energy, in terms of vision, in terms of values that we believe in, and in terms of expertise. We don't have to discount the expertise. We combined have almost 50 years of experience in the market. So that's a lot of years.
Yeah, it sounds heavy, and
it's heavy.
And honestly, it's really something that we bring together.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, for all the mid and large developers existing on the market in Warsaw and all the other cities that we plan to expand to, it's really amazing that they can benefit of this expertise in a structured way on the long run. I've in that position because I'm also, as you already know, in a position of running the investment part of an important investment company. That's peace of mind. Working with Monika to get my development in Warsaw to the completion, the sales completion, for me as an investor in a project in which Monika is heading and the concept is heading the sales, is peace of mind.
That's great to hear. Actually, I will not comment that. We should focus more still on the reasons. Why?
Why Poland?
Why Poland? Why?
I have to first admit that you are the main driver of it. The fact that we like you and how you approached us and how this all partnership went through, it was very professional. And this is exactly what we wanted from every partner that in each state we are expanding to. And this came very natural. If we look behind, it came very natural. It came very professional. And now I feel very confident that things will go amazingly well. Besides this, of course, Poland is an amazing country. Always interesting for me as an explorer. You know, I have this exploring proneness. You know, I mean, I've always loved history and geography, and I looked at this part of the world as being full of discoveries and things that are aligned with what I believe about the world. Meaning that if we are here on this planet, living this life here, we should for sure do it in a way that's aligned with what we feel or on the inside. So basically in an authentic way. And Polish people check at each of these points: vibrant, authentic, mature, enduring.
The ones that you have met.
Yeah, most
so
of them.
far.
Most of them. Yeah, really. And besides that, of course, is the market context. Residential market in Warsaw is amazing. Warsaw is a city a bit bigger than Bucharest, and in a way, this challenges us. Yeah.
Let me just refer to what you said. I think what actually brought us together, as you said, the values, but also approach to people and the team. So the leading the people is actually very important. And what you mentioned, just as you tried to describe it, I would call it one of the best characteristics of and needed characteristics of a good leader is the curiosity.
Yeah.
And the vision.
I love that.
And actually, this is something that we felt together, but also I think this business approach we have in common. So target-oriented, business-oriented, I would say knowledge-driven and data-driven.
Yeah.
So of course there are those soft factors, but the concentration and let's say business focus, is something that is important.
I love
here.
that. Totally agree.
Yeah. The market is, I would say, Poland and Romania are the most vibrant places these days, and it's quite natural that actually we can bridge this and leverage the expertise of both of those countries together.
Exactly.
But there is still a question.
Tell me.
Why now?
I love Europe, and I find myself as as being firstly a European person. So I think there's no better moment than now to think this way and start acting this way. It's a huge opportunity for us, the Europeans, to make the difference in a world which seems pretty, let's say, tumultuous, to not say more. We are doing we are doing things in Europe, in a structured way, with an appearance of being a bit bureaucratic. But in the meantime, everyone wants to live in Europe. And with the things aside, the geopolitical things that are happening, there are countries that want to connect to be part of the European Union. So for us to start lead the way, I think it's not only an opportunity, but it's the right thing to do. To rise, to impose a standard of services and of products, to basically create a direction, a vision for the people, in a moment in which many people need a vision. And we can do it in our environment, real estate sector, and domains that let's say connected, and basically start and do our thing, do our contribution from this level. Besides that, I think there's room for creating a European market, a European real estate market, because now we are a collection of states, as you all of our audience already know, and we want to be there when it's mature, not wait to be mature and come and enter in. We want to help, to contribute to getting it to the mature level. And also the fact that we can transfer, as you said previously, the knowledge between these two important players in the region, Romania and Poland, is a big opportunity. I see a lot of cross-country deals. I see a lot of capital going much easily, flowing much easily between the two countries, because now they have the right partner to do that.
Yeah, it's like an investment bridge or opportunity bridge.
Yeah.
Definitely the countries are different, but they have many similarities as well. Is the moment somehow related to something else? It's, for me, the concept, something you mentioned just like that, and do not pause on it, do not focus on it, but it's quite impressive that actually the concept has 15 years. Yeah. So it's already a milestone for the whole organization, and this is another big step. But I heard also that the momentum is an anniversary, right? So
it was perfect match. Meaning, when we finally went with the deal through, was exactly the day in which 15 years ago we started the company.
The same day.
Exactly the same day.
That's not a coincidence.
That's
isn't it?
not a coincidence
Cannot
at all.
be.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Okay. Do you know I have my own perspective also, which
Please.
I think not many people actually realize. So the fact that we are in 2026 entering the new quarter of a century.
Yeah.
And as you said, building the market, imagine 2025 we have already behind. 2050 is the end of this quarter of a century, and it's another milestone. We have already prospects for the growth and also targets, sustainability, other targets from European Union and Europe itself for 2050.
Yeah.
It's already a breaking point, which encourages me a lot to be active and to utilize this knowledge of other quarters of a century I left behind already. At least two.
Yeah, I think, when stars align, they just align.
So
you just feel it and move with full throttle ahead.
So it's like a really breaking moment in time, and you really feel the opportunities and the possibilities for the future. With the concept using the data and the something that is, I think, needed totally these days, and also the proper tools, digitalization, that is just a trampoline for, let's say, everything that we can do together.
Yeah.
Right? For the future.
Exactly. It's
next quarter of a century.
Yeah, it's a quarter of a century full of opportunities, and besides that, full of life. This is how I see it. It's a quarter of a century full of life, and we need to ride this wave. This is why we are here in Warsaw together. We need to really ride this wave.
Okay, so that's not all, actually. I have left something for the end of the podcast, but maybe there is something that you would like to add from yourself.
Yeah, I want to add to all the people that are following you. The fact that your expertise, your energy, and your approach towards people, towards leading teams, is extremely valuable. Maybe many people already know you and have had the opportunity to speak to you recurrently. And, when you see someone very often, it's just your friend. You don't see everything anymore. But when someone comes from a side and enters the conversation, sees you as you really are, and has the benefit of the newcomer, because I can have the opportunity to see what probably people that have already met you in the industry haven't had, because they were used to you anyhow. And this expertise combined with your energy, combined with the capacity to gather resources, people, systems, relationships, marketing engine. Yeah, this is very, very valuable, and I'm sure that many developers, many investors that are following us now will find valuable as well. And happy to be part of this amazing story with you and create something durable together for our clients, developers, investors, and people that have interest in the market.
So I think everyone will absolutely understand why I've decided to join this project together with Daniel, right? It's of course the human factor, and the relation is very important. And as we manage to align and have a common vision of the growing business together, we can fly. We cannot just move quickly forward. We can just fly without looking behind, and this is what I appreciate, and thank you for the kind words. So let's just leave the last question.
Please.
So how would you envision the concept operations in Poland? Just leave a basic, I would say, vision, because of course this is not the moment when we can actually elaborate on everything. This is a lot, but just the basic.
Thank you for the question. So first of all, we want, and we are already working on this, want to create long-term partnerships with all the clients that we'll start working with, middle and large developers, institutional investors, and any other type of companies or people with interest in the market. We'll approach this long-term partnership in a transparent way, very data-driven, reports, analysis, underwriting of deals. We know how to do this thing and will help a lot in the process. We, of course, solve many challenges on the entire commercial life of a development, like the advisory before starting development, marketing, planning and execution, sales, strategy, planning, execution, everything that goes throughout the process until the end, meaning reception with the clients, financing, so all this customer care thing. And besides that, work closely with the developer to create new potential opportunities, like new plots of land, new assets to be bought to invest in, like retail, office, hotels, maybe even residential projects in bulk for institutional investors or for PRS purposes or stuff. And also bringing equity from different investment platforms towards the development that they are planning. So yeah, we have plenty of work to do. We are very keen on starting it, and Warsaw is the best place to start making this story, making this company one of the most successful in the industry.
So for the ones that are listening, what would be your last message that you would like to leave with the audience?
I would like to say that you all should and must trust Monika. She's a treasure, full of expertise, full of leadership, and who really cares about what you are doing. You care about the client. You care about what the people in front of you deserves and will definitely get through your help and the help of the team that we are building together.
I think we have went through this conversation actually with some feeling of abundance. So positive feeling, actually, we have both about the market. So actually looking at the positive sides, not just looking at the focusing on the problems and the limits, which is this feeling I would like to leave everyone. And thank you so much, Daniel, for this conversation today. I think this is not the last time we meet, but actually it's I will just let you to say goodbye to everyone, and we will see each other next time.
For sure, I'd be happy to be back in your podcast here, and happy to meet as many friends who will gather around us in the coming weeks, months, and years. So yeah, I'm here as well, close to Monika, and happy to be here. Really happy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching and switching to Polish language. Dziękuję bardzo. Do zobaczenia w następnym odcinku. Zapraszam na rozmowy z interesującymi gośćmi o rynku w Polsce. Pozdrawiam.
Ciao.